I've been commenting on this video that I did. One of them, one of my videos on antinatalism, and the commenter called the antinatalist. He keeps coming back, and he keeps giving me these antinatalist positions, and he says that, and I was saying to him, well, in that video, I said you can't know what that potential child's life is going to be like. Antinatalists think that we should stop procreating because we need to stop suffering and deprivation. We need to stop all that because it's obvious that it's prevalent, and it's obvious that it's common, and therefore we need to stop that. We need to not procreate anymore and let the race die. Let the human race die out to end all this suffering. One thing I said in this video was that you antinatalists cannot know about what the life of your potential children are like. You can't say, well, I mean, anybody can make the decision to not have sex or not procreate, but you don't know what your we don't know what your potential child's life will be like. You don't know if the factor of happiness or the factor of suffering is going to be greater than the other. So you can't say that I'm not going to create because I see from my eyes there's a lot of suffering and deprivation of the world. Therefore, I want to not create these children to prevent them, to not impose upon them this suffering and deprivation. And he said, well, even if the children somehow knew that their children's life would be perfectly happy at a point, it would still be unethical to procreate and make this child, because there would still be times of deprivation leading up to this point. I should pull this up. Give me a sec. I want to show the conversation. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to find it. Okay, here. Here he says, even if parents had 100% certainty that their child was going to live the most comfortable and happy life that anyone ever lived, it would still be unethical to procreate, because if the child had never been born, he or she would not be deprived of future happiness had he been born. So we're talking about that, the most comfortable and happy life. The position here is that you're still going to have deprivation and suffering. So even if there's still going to be the most happy and comfortable life possible, there's still going to be suffering and deprivation that we need to. Their position is that even still we need to not procreate to prevent all suffering and all deprivation. My response was that sometimes deprivation is worth later outcomes. Some amounts of suffering and deprivation are worth greater pleasures. And if there was no deprivation and always happiness and pleasure, the subject will become unsatisfied and want more and more intense pleasure and happiness. Deprivation and suffering are not as big of enemies as you think they are. And that's the point of making. That's the point I want to say in this video right now, is that suffering and deprivation are not the biggest enemies in the world. Imagine, Epicurus even said this. Imagine the life where this person is given everything and is always given pleasures, happiness. Imagine this person's life where they're given everything, they have everything, and they're constantly have pleasures. Unlimited pleasures right there, okay? Now, Epicurus said that this person would become unsatisfied and would turn into this spiral of unhappiness. So my conclusion here is that suffering and deprivation have to be included in every life. One, for appreciation. You need to appreciate things. For conscious growth, I think, to understand some sort of that. I mean, I don't understand why antinatalists think that suffering and deprivation, any of it at all, is the biggest enemy. Yeah, it's going to suck, but it's going to be worth it. In the long run, it's going to be worth it. So, having some suffering and deprivation in one's life is not the worst thing possible. It's just not. I mean, you can deal with it, because even then, even though, Marcel Proust, I said in a little video about Marcel Proust, that when in years of suffering he learned a lot of things, and they were actually worth his time to have those years of suffering. And I just fail to see why suffering and deprivation is the worst thing, because in the common life there's going to be some of it, and in the common life where consciousness is going to retreat, as I'm going to put this here. Normally I wouldn't use that word, but in the common life, or in a certain life, a couple certain lives, you're going to have things where things go awry, and people commit suicide and stuff like that because there's too much suffering, because they did a few things wrong, but which leads to that. I'm not gonna go into exactly what that is, but I don't know. I just think, aside from the few cases where people do things wrong and end up having the worst life of maximized suffering and deprivation, and where they kill themselves. Aside from those few cases, each life is going to have suffering and deprivation. This is not an enemy. So what I think is that you all should grow some balls, deal, and realize that that's not the worst thing that can happen. Realize that you have some capacity for suffering and deprivation.